Lisa graduated, I think I said this earlier, but with a degree in ESRM in 2018. Lisa, we are really excited to have you here and especially talk about your work since our theme is conservation this year. So go take it away.
I love it. Thank you so much. It's great to be back, especially in this space. It's really exciting to be able to converge sort of my background at CSUCI and come back and be able to talk about the work that I'm doing all the way over here on the East Coast now, in New Haven, Connecticut. So I'm over at Yale University. I am working in their Office of Sustainability as their sustainability data analyst. So I am able to sort of crunch numbers on the back end, but then also use my background in art, and especially from CSUCI, I came in as an art major originally, and then pivoted to ESRM once I found out what climate change was. So it's kind of nice now to be able to, in my job, like converge my love for art and sustainability and environmental science. So it's great to be able to talk to you all today. I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if you can see this. So I don't have too many slides for you today. And the reason is because I wanted to sort of pause on showing you some of the data dashboards that I've created. I'm going to focus a little bit more on the visualization side of data today, just because I feel like that's what I can speak to best. And also because I feel like there are so many things that aren't considered when making a data visualization, especially if you're very mired in the data itself. You're not really thinking about what the person on the receiving end is going to be processing, right? Like you're telling the story in your mind of what you think the data is saying, but you don't know if it's going to be received that way. Um, and then just also like the importance of making visualizations accessible and and diverse as well. Um, so these are my top 3 tips for communicating data. It seems really simple, but these are really important because when I first came to Yale, I was very like detail oriented, too much so, like very perfectionist with data and in the way that I communicated it as well, because I wanted to get every single ounce of information that I could onto a data visualization. And my boss was like, absolutely not. You need to tell me like I'm 5. And I was like, tell you like you're 5. I thought it was ridiculous because I had gone through all of this schooling to be able to talk about really complicated things. And then now I just have to dumb it down into 5 words. But really, it was one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten because what I was able to do from that point on was actually really sit with the data for longer than you normally would, right? You're going to analyze it, but to sit with it for long enough to really get it and like be able to talk about it on the fly. And like even if you could just sit and write a paragraph about it, you know, that's a success because a lot of people go into making a visualization just wanting to get all the information in it, and that's not the way to do it. You want to tell a story, and you want to, like I said, less is more. Keep it simple and really convey only what you really, really want to convey, and also make sure that you have the story in your head as well. And something that I have learned recently since I've been in this position is there are several tools for checking your visualizations for accessibility. So there are color blindness tools. So if you go online, I have a few that I can put in the chat if you'd like. But I always, before I ever publish a data visualization, I run it through this color blindness checker. So to make sure that it's accessible for people with color blindness. There are also a lot of tools, and there are a lot of different software for visualizing data. A lot of people use Tableau. I use Power BI, and there are actually some built-in accessibility features on the back end when you're making a dashboard, that it's really important to incorporate those at the beginning. But also checking for jargon and making sure that you're not saying something that, yes, you understand, but a 5-year-old wouldn't understand. I also want to talk about the importance of what I think are the two most important types of data visualizations, spatial and temporal. So you're showing either something mapped out spatially on Earth, so you're able to click into something, say it's a tree, and you get to see the data associated with that tree that was collected during a tree survey. Seeing that and being able to zoom into that, and in this example here, to be able to swipe over an image and see how the land cover used to look versus how it looks now. So this is a really, really, really important type of data visualization for sustainability in the conservation space, especially. And then also temporal data, so showing change over time, right? This is an example that I made from Yale's materials management data, recycling, compost, MSW. So there are a lot of different ways to visualize data, but I do think that these two components, either a space or a time, are the most important things. Like pie charts, I don't feel are that compelling. So that's my advice there. These are just some accessibility tips. Like I said, you want to make sure that you're not using a lot of jargon, and you want to make sure you're really, really dumbing it down, using very few words, trying to use big fonts, using really contrasting colors. That's all going to be really important in visualizing your data. So here's just a little walkthrough of one of the dashboards that I made for our data hub. And I'll go into a little bit more of it later, but is it going to go? Let me see. So here it is. This is the results of the sustainability survey that I distributed in 2022. I wanted to show how you can click in and see different types of data and sort of drill down. There is a lot of clicking in, but if you click into this, you get to see comments, and it's all visualized within the same like brand template, if you will. So I just wanted to kind of show this as an example, because what our data hub was before I came on board was a series of static visuals, which are helpful, question mark, but what's more helpful is being able to click into something. So if you can actually, is it gonna let me do it? Nope, of course not. I do have the tab open. Where is it? There it is. Okay. But being able to actually click into something. So that example that I showed was for the sustainability survey. If I go into interest areas, I can see a breakdown of what comments were related to 9 different sustainability interest areas. And then I can actually see examples of the comments. But I've found that buttons actually work really well to get people to want to absorb your data, because that's a whole other part of it, right? Is like, make it look interesting enough that people actually will sit there and want to absorb it. Because if it's just a bunch of numbers like we were seeing before in an Excel spreadsheet, it looks intimidating. I'm not gonna, read that. But if you kind of visualize it and break it down in a way that is easier to understand, I think goes a really long way. And so you'd think that the analysis part of data processing and visualization would actually be the longest part. I disagree. I think that the longest part is figuring out how you're going to communicate it, and what it's going to look like when you do, and what would be the best way to convey it so that people are getting the message that you want them to get from your data. So that's really all I have. But it was really great to speak to all of you, and I hope that you continue to think about how to bring your creative side into making your data visualizations to make them really compelling so that people will want to just keep looking at them. So thank you.